marched to Thrace and immediately captured Diomedes. Then they paraded him in front of the people of Thrace. "Friends, I have heard about your king's many cruel acts," Heracles said to them. "I'd rather not believe they're true. So if anyone has a kind word to say about Diomedes, speak up." Complete silence followed. Heracles continued. "No one, eh? Well, we won't punish this man for his crimes. We won't punish this man for his crimes." Emphasis on we. "If the tales are true, his own mayors will give him the justice he deserves." Heracles led the Thracians to the valley where the mares were kept. There he forced the trembling Diomedes into the pen. Instantly the mares surrounded their former master. They kicked and bit and finally feasted upon his flesh. When the horror was over, the mares shook themselves. Then they gently trotted over to Heracles. To all appearances, they seemed grateful to be rid of their wicked master. Now that he was close enough, Heracles saw the mare's condition. "Why, the creatures are starving. Look at their ribs." He turned to his men. "Gather some grain and hay and feed these mares at once." Once that was done, the mares were completely tame. Heracles was able to deliver them to Eurystheus without further trouble. And that is the end of the 8th labor. So the problem was these were horses that ate people. The solution was down here. He captured Diomedes. Down here, let's see. He captured Diomedes. The group marched to Thrace and immediately captured Diomedes. Underline that. That's the first step in the solution. Write solution over here and underline this. Then in the next column over here, the next part of the solution is he fed Diomedes to the human-eating horses. Right here, they feasted upon his flesh, right here. Underline that and write solution. Well, that's the second part of the solution. And then finally, gather some grain and hay and feed these mares. He fed them real horse food instead of people. Underline this. Write solution over here. And then that made it easy to take them back to Eurystheus. They were just regular horses at this point. The 9th labor. Right here, the 9th labor. Put this in the margin. The 9th labor, Hippolyta's belt. The 9th labor was to bring back the belt of Hippolyta, queen of the Amazons. Eurystheus hoped that the trip to the Amazons' distant land would be the end of Heracles, but Heracles and his crew arrived safely. So the first part of his solution was getting there. The problem, part of the problem here is the trip, underline this, the trip to the Amazons' distant land. That should be highlighted. And you should underline that. And in the margin over here, the long trip to the Amazons' distant land is part of the problem. It's far away. Now he's there. He's solved that problem. He's gotten there. Heracles greeted Hippolyta with reverence. He admired this nation made up solely of women. The Amazons were fierce hunters and fighters, yet they were wise and fair-minded as well. For their part, the Amazons knew of Heracles. Who didn't? News of Eurystheus' tasks had traveled even to their distant land. They were impressed by Heracles. Heracles. Heracles' courage and his ability to do the impossible. Heracles accepted the Amazons' praise. He also welcomed their invitation to join them for dinner. As they feasted that night, the Greek and Amazons, the Greeks, meaning Heracles and whoever was traveling with him, the Greeks and Amazons exchanged tall tales. Heracles also explained his latest task. Hippolyta listened with respect. When he finished, she gladly offered her belt. Sounds like the job is done, but of course for Heracles the job is never really done, it seems, because who's out to get him? Hera. Maybe you put that over here. Hera is still trying to defeat and kill Heracles. But Hera was watching. The fact that Heracles had succeeded in all his other tasks infuriated her. The goddess wasn't about to let him win the belt so easily. So here would be a good place for your prediction. What is she going to do? What is your prediction? What will Hera do to make things more difficult for Heracles? Right here in the margin. Hera took the form of an Amazon. So he was taking the form of one of these women from the place of Amazon and entered the feasting hall. From group to group she went. "Warriors," she said in a low voice, "don't be fooled by this fool. His real mission here is to kidnap our queen. Gather your spears. See that he and his men don't leave this hall alive." So the problem here is Hera is now conspiring to get all of the Amazons against him, even though they were getting along just fine before, and Hippolyta gave him the belt. Hippolyta, their queen. So in the margin over here, you should say Hera is working against him. Hera clouded the senses of the women, so they couldn't think. Over here, they couldn't think. They believed her and grew furious. With a shout, they launched an attack on the Greeks. Heracles didn't even stop to think. When he was attacked, he fought back, and he fought to win. In the fierce battle that followed, Heracles killed Hippolyta. So, let's see. He didn't stop to think. This is part of the solution. He didn't stop to think. He couldn't think about this. He had to move on. He had to move immediately to protect himself and get the labor done. In the fierce battle that followed, Heracles killed Hippolyta. As he saw her sink to the ground, the shock awoke him. With a groan of regret, the hero grabbed the queen's belt. Then he shouted, "To the ship!" The Greeks charged for the door and managed to escape. Sad but safe, they sailed to Mycenae. Scarcely had Heracles touched dry ground before Eurystheus sent him out on his 10th task. So we're moving on to the 10th labor. But how did he solve the problem of Hera working against him, getting the belt from Hippolyta? He didn't stop to think. He attacked. And when he was attacked, he fought back. You could highlight this. These are all part of the solution. And he fought to win. So this was an all-out battle. And he immediately shouted, "To the ship." So, in essence, all of this is about him moving quickly, not hesitating. He didn't have time to hesitate. These parts underlined here are all part of the solution. Okay? That is the end of the ninth labor. We're about to start the 10th labor. The 10th labor. Scarcely had Heracles touched dry ground before Eurystheus sent him out on his 10th task, the 10th labor. You should underline this and write this over in the margin. The oxen of Geryon. This time he was to bring back the oxen of Geryon, or Geryon. Heracles mulled over his task. I would circle this word and write over here in the margin. Mulled means thought deeply. thought over his task, thought about his task. Geryon, I think it's Geryon, here's the pronunciation down here, Geryon or Geryon. Geryon's a monster with 3 bodies, joined at the waist. He has a 2-headed dog and a giant herdsman to help guard those cattle of his, and he lives at the ends of the earth. So there are many levels to this problem. Geryon is a monster. Okay. Geryon has 3 bodies joined at the waist. I guess that's what probably makes him a monster, but there's the description. Geryon's a monster. Geryon's a monster with 3 bodies joined at the waist. He also has a 2-headed dog. That's a problem. And a giant herdsman. So there's a giant he's dealing with here. So there's a monster with 3 bodies joined at the waist, 2-headed dog, and a giant herdsman to help guard those cattle of his. And he has to get the cattle, the oxen, from Geryon. And he lives at the ends of the earth. That means he lives very, very, very far away. So here are the problems. You should be writing problems right here. The mighty hero, meaning Heracles, you should probably maybe underline this and write Heracles. He's mighty. He's a hero. Scratched his chin. Ah, well. Just so long as there are no more decent people involved. Killing a noble warrior like Hippolyta is one thing. So there's regret here. In his last labor, his 9th labor, he had to kill Hippolyta, who was a noble warrior in his mind. And clearly he and his men did not like that. But what's another 3 monsters? To him, this doesn't seem like a big deal. He's just up against 3 more monsters. The 3 bodies joined at the waist, the 2-headed dog, and a giant herdsman. Heracles began his long journey to Geryon's island off Spain. So if you're thinking of the Mediterranean, from where Greece is all the way to Spain, this is almost all the way across the Mediterranean Sea. So this further gives us the idea that it's at the end of the earth as they knew it in that time. This was on the other side of the Mediterranean. So far away, I would write far away over here. For the voyage, he'd borrowed a special magic ship from Helios, the god of the sun. When he finally reached the island, the fight began at once. Geryon's 2-headed dog appeared first. Heracles slew the beast after a short, wild battle. So part of the solution, Heracles slew, meaning he killed the beast after a short battle. I am trying to highlight this. So here's the problem. Here's the part of the solution, a part of the solution. Heracles slew the beast after a short, wild battle. Moving on to the next part of the solution. You should write solution over here. Next page. Hardly had he wiped his club, cleaned up his tool, his weapon. Hardly had he wiped his club, than the giant herdsman was upon him. So first the 2-headed dog, and now the giant herdsman. This battle took longer, though Heracles again triumphed. So Heracles triumphed. This is part of the solution. You should write part of the solution. He won over the giant. Finally, Geryon himself stepped forward to fight the hero. Kill my servants, will you? He screamed from his 3 heads. Now imagine screaming from 3 heads. Screaming from 1 head is enough, but screaming from 3 heads, that would be very loud. Like right over here, loud. The monster snapped trees from their roots and hurled them at Heracles. So pretty strong, right? Pull trees right from their roots. And